They use 40% of the world's energy, emit 50% of its greenhouse gases. They are not the cars we drive. They are the buildings where we work, live, and grow. Buildings designed with an unconscious disregard for nature. Adopting sustainable alternatives is not only a matter of progress, it's a matter of survival. Design E squared, the economies of being environmentally conscious. What is it we ask of our leaders, of our elected officials? Do we want safe choices, or make the call for bold ones? Do we expect caretakers, or demand visionaries? Today, nearly half of the world's population live in cities. How will we cope as we continue to grow, expand, and build? What do we ask of our leaders? And what will be the consequences of their actions?
Chicago is the American city. Chicago is at the crossroads of America and feels like America to me. I mean, there are a lot of cities in America feel like America, but Chicago is the big, bombastic American city.
Chicago is both a museum of architectural history, a place to which tourists flock to see great buildings by Daniel Burnham, Louis Sullivan, Mies van der Rohe, and Frank Lloyd Wright, but also it's a laboratory for charting the urban future. It's a place that invented the skyscraper. It's a place that determined the shape of the City Beautiful movement of grandly scaled classical buildings and plazas. And it's now a laboratory for green architecture because of the passion that Mayor Daley has for greening his city and beautifying his city.
Mayor Daley wants City of Chicago to be the greenest city in America. That really means that he wants the city to implement greening strategies in every part of what we do. It's really about taking advantage of sustainability principles in everything we as a city are doing. And as the third largest city in the country, that means a lot of resources. We buy a lot, we build a lot, we have a lot of operations out there. Cities are the ones that bear the burden of taking care of citizenry for the most part.
I think what's really interesting that the natural resources are in the Rust Belt in a big way. And I think turning them into cleaner, more sustainable resources will be really interesting in the next half a century or so when these cities, all of them, decide what they will do with their natural resources, in addition to how they will clean up what was left by the Industrial Revolution.
Sustainability is really about doing things better than we have before. It's finding new solutions to age-old problems. For years, many parts of the country were dumping grounds. There were a lot of illegal dumping, hazardous materials. We had illegal landfills. There was a lot of really negative things going on. We've cleaned up hundreds and hundreds of acres of brownfield sites, abandoned sites, old gas stations, illegal dumps.
Let's be honest, we are not going to consume our way out of this. Not the way we're consuming now. So let's not have that fantasy. You have to set up societies in a very different way. It doesn't mean that quality of life needs to diminish. It means that you define your quality of life in a different way.
When you think of the green movement, you think of what? You think of Europe, maybe? You think Germany? Maybe Japan? San Francisco? But Chicago?
This grass is so beautiful when it's in the wind. There's insects everywhere. We're on Chicago City Hall approximately 4 years after nature was given an opportunity to clean this little patch of the city. The original impetus for this project and the projects in Chicago in general was an effort to use a natural, beautiful technique to reduce the temperature in the city in the summer, the so-called urban heat island phenomenon, in which many, many gravel-covered or gray roofs are absorbing energy, converting it into heat, and raising the temperature of the city, essentially creating its own weather.
It's a strategy, a component of a building that does multiple things. It filters stormwater, it retains stormwater, it cools the roof, it reduces heat island. It has 4 or 5 multiple benefits in one component.
I'm an engineer, so I tend to focus first on, as we've been discussing, energy benefits, water quality benefits, stormwater benefits, but the real benefit is this experience. So what we're creating is a whole new urban environment, a whole new urban context, really. And that's only going to come to fruition if this spreads. In Germany, projects like this have been around for over 40 years and have every indication they're going to live on much longer. These could very well be 100-year investments.
We're out there trying new things all the time, and the green roof that, on City Hall is a great example of that. The mayor was traveling in Europe, saw a green roof, and came back here to Chicago and said, well, let's put a green roof on City Hall, and everyone said, we can't do that.
You get up high enough under skyscrapers and look down, you see all these flat roofs. And what a waste, basically, of property. If it was all green, how would it affect quality of air, the quality of environment, and nature as well? And so that's why it's like a big park system, basically on every building.
If you didn't know you were in the city, you wouldn't enjoy it half as much, right? I could go out to a meadow and this would be nice, but being here in the city, it's great. I haven't bothered to look, but I'll guarantee you there's worms in the soil here. This environment, left to its own devices, will get richer and richer as time goes on.
There are also spiders up here. They're actually up here for the bees. They come up here to eat the bees. The bees really like it up here. The bees like it hot and dry. As long as that's provided. They also like good ventilation. All those things exist up here on top of City Hall. Yeah, so this is what we look for, we beekeepers. A full frame of ripe honey.
Those of us who served on the Environment Committee of the AIA were a little surprised. We didn't appreciate at the time why that would be the first green building policy that the mayor would adopt. We would have improved the energy efficiency, we would have substituted green building materials and the like ahead of that. The brilliance of what the mayor did was he chose a symbol that the public could get excited about.
The symbolism of taking the roof of City Hall, this traditional, powerful-looking seat of public authority, and greening it, really sent a signal, and that was kind of the political brilliance of it. It said to developers and to public agencies, we're serious.
This isn't just about a grassy roof. It's not about parks and trees. We're talking instead about a relationship. The relationship of the environment, of what we build and how we build it, to the people who live there.
Chicago's green movement hasn't arisen from, the neighborhoods and from a popular outcry. It's arisen from the passion of the mayor, who really cares about green architecture. While the mayor clearly has instituted many progressive green policies, such as the green roofs, there is a political downside, one could argue, to the way some of his green measures have been instituted. The classic example was his midnight shutdown of a little airport on our lakefront. He had always wanted to turn it into a park, which I thought was a wonderful idea because land along the lakefront should be parkland, open to the people of the city.
What's driving all of this is the city's arbitrary decision to close Meigs at the end of this month.
Governor Edgar promises the state will sue Chicago to keep Meigs open. The Meigs control tower radioed the news to all incoming pilots Monday morning. After 50 years in operation, it was the final day of flight at Meigs Field.
One Sunday night, after the 10 o'clock news was over, city backhoes headed out to this runway and gouged giant X's into it, thereby shutting it down.
Mayor Daley took it upon himself that sometimes he has to just make a decision. Sometimes he has to move the bulldozers in, and somebody's going to be really angry.
This was a naked display of power. You know, it's my city, and I'm going to do whatever I want with it. Do the ends justify the means? I think it's very hard to say.
The mayor's found that there's often resistance to true leadership. Sometimes in real leadership, you have to make hard decisions. You have to take risks, and the green roof was a risk. Taking over the schools was a risk, and the public housing. There's always a chance that it may not work, and there's often criticism when you first do it.
Choosing to declare yourself the greenest city in America is not a popularity contest. Regardless, some bold choices may cause one to step back. But hopefully, the next move brings you 3 steps forward.
Millennium Park has just changed the spirit of Chicago. The city of Chicago committed money from the downtown taxing district, so it didn't bother communities outside the downtown. In the private sector, the business community pitched in over $250 million. And everything that you see is privately paid for. And we only built the foundation and the garage.
I think Millennium Park is the best thing that Daley has done. It's a park and it's green. It has a green roof, a 24.5-acre green roof, where before there was simply a railroad track and an open pit parking lot. So it's visible green in that sense. You can see the green roof. It's also conceptual green in the best possible way, because it's encouraged developers, because it's upgraded that area enormously, because it's improved the public realm. It's now a prestigious, desirable place to live.
You have to do things that will change just the spirit of a city, and that has changed the spirit of the city. Why? Because it's a new concept of a park. It becomes a gathering place for people. It doesn't matter who you are, how rich you are, how poor you are. It doesn't matter if you're from Chicago. It becomes a gathering place. And I think it's really changed the whole spirit of Chicago now.
On June 10th, 2004,